We're on Unit 5C, and the first question is, identify the variable as either qualitative or quantitative. And this can be found on page 322. And so the population of a town, why, that's quantitative, that's countable, so B. Let's see, for 2, the political affiliations of residents of a city. Well, that's not quantitative, that's qualitative. So that's A. Now for question 3, we have to use the indicated bin size to construct a frequency table for the set of data. Include columns for relative frequency and cumulative frequency. So Kevin asked some of his friends how many hours they had studied for the test. The times are shown below, and we're supposed to use 2-point bins, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, and so on. And by the way, this information can be further explored, or this concept can be further explored in pages 320 and 321. And here's what we get. So our bin sizes are from 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7, 8, and so on. The frequencies, when we collect the data, are, there's the 3 to 4 bin, there's 3 incidences of that. The 5 to 6 bin, a lot of people spent 13 incidences of that, and so on. The relative frequency is the decimal value. There were 3 out of, let's see, a total of 24, so that's 1/8 or 0.125. 13 out of 24, that would be 0.542, and so on. And the cumulative frequencies, by that it means we've got 3, then 3 plus 13 is 16, 16 plus 7 is 23, and so on. And there's our, that takes care of number 3. Now on to 4. And for question 4, we have to do another frequency chart, and this is relative to the weekly income comes in dollars of 20 college students, and use 50-point bins. So 0 to 49, and the frequency is 2. The relative frequency is 10%, so 2 out of 20 is 10%, or 1/10. The cumulative frequency is 2. For the 50 to 99 incomes, there were 4 who made that much, and so 4 over 20 becomes 20%, and cumulative frequency 2 plus 4 is 6, and so on throughout the chart. Now let's go on to 5. And for 5, it says make a bar graph. And by the way, the examples of these graphs are on pages 325 through 329. And the following table shows the number of female infants born at Hospital X on New Year's Day, January 1st. Create a vertical bar graph. And when you make a bar graph, you're going to have a separation of bars, as opposed to a histogram where bars will be side by side. But in a bar graph, you're going to have a separation of bars. And here we have the number of female infants born, and these are the corresponding years. So now let's go on to 6. And this, you have to, in order to get something out of this, you have to redraw these, replicate what I'm doing, and then make sense of it as you do that again to understand fully what we've done, how to answer the question. But with replication, you will get that. Okay, now we have to construct a pie chart representing the given data. And science is 32%, social science is 8%, humanities 20%, business 16%, and other is 24%. What we're talking about is 16% of the pie or 32% of the pie. But we can convert these into degrees because there's 360 degrees in a circle. So 24% of 360 degrees is almost 90 degrees. And as a matter of fact, let's compute those right now as we go along, and we'll get the degrees too. So we're talking 32%, 0.32 times 360, and 32% corresponds to an angle measure of 115 degrees, 115 degrees. 8% corresponds to an angle measure of 28.8 degrees. And let's round it up and make it 29 degrees. 20 degrees of 360 corresponds to, well, 10% is 36 degrees, so 20% is going to be 72 degrees. And 16% of 360 degrees is going to correspond to, let's see, 0.16 times 360, and we get 57.6 degrees. Well, I'm going to round that up and say about 58 degrees. And finally, we have 24%, and that corresponds to about 24 times 360 equals about 86 degrees. And I rounded to the nearest degree. And so with these degrees, then we can make a reasonable estimation of the appropriate pie chart. Now let's go on to 7. And in a survey of 20 voters were asked their age. The results are summarized in the frequency table below, and you have that table on your chart. So now we have to construct a histogram relative to this information. And when we do that, the vertical column is always frequency, and here's the age of voters. And notice the bars are adjoining in a histogram. Also, the vertical column is always frequency. So we'll stop there and go on to the next page.